Howdy folks, and welcome to the stream. My name is Mike D'Angelo, aka That Tellest Guy. We are going to be looking at some maps today. Specifically, we're going to be going back to Hidden Harbor to look at some of the stuff that we can do here. I'm practicing a little bit right now with trying to figure out a way to make these sails look a little bit nicer, and kind of have the sigils of whatever area we're going to be using on the sails. One of the things that I noticed was the sail that we're using here doesn't quite make sense. You'll actually see as we go and look for the sails again real quick. I have to get out of that catalog. I have to go to the fantasy battle maps. You'll see there's a bigger sail that would go right where that one is. So that one needs to live there. So we're probably going to, just for the sake of this video, play around a little bit with what we have. I wanted to show you another kind of like scraping situation. So we've got the Argos flag on here. Really what I did was I just sized something that I've been using for myself. So basically what I did was in Photoshop, let me turn a light on. Maybe it'll distract the bug that's flying around in my room. In Photoshop, what I did was I took the sails image, threw it together on something like this, so that I could grab, the sail itself without having to worry about getting like a white background or anything like that. Made the sail itself kind of a smart object, so that I could come in here into this separate layer, and you can see I already did it with Argos. Because it is laying down on top of something so nice. Yeah, I mean, I'll certainly move into the into Inkarnate for sure, but I'm just showing like a technique. How's it going, by the way, Meatball? What I'm really trying to do now is, we know that there's another, there's an adversary to these two Argos ships over here on the east side of the docks. And I want to see if I can take the Paradis sigil and see what I can do with that. I don't know that it's going to work out that great, because we're losing the blue. So a little bit of that goes away. So we're going to move this over to layer 11. Flip it around. Technically, I could have just flipped it, but that's not what I'm doing at the moment. And then what I did for the last one was I went and did a distort. And I specifically was trying to make it so that this middle square kind of gets thrown in there, so it has kind of a squat look to it. And as the perspective shifts down, we're going to do something like that a little bit. So we've got those as kind of like our guidelines, so to speak. So what we'll do now is we'll hit save. And because it's a smart object, when we go back to the sails, we've got that image on the sail. So in a perfect world, what I would do is have pretty much everything that you see here on the sail itself colored the same style as this sigil. That nice like baby blue color would be there. I don't think that I would be able to do it very well, just because I'm not as well versed in Photoshop as I am with a lot of other things. We can try real quick and see what it looks like to do it. So we know here that the sails are going to be the big piece. So let's go, and we're going to get all of the alpha layer. And then we're going to go to select inverse, and that should give us pretty much the sails itself. So at that point, we're able to kind of screw with the sails. The problem is, what you'll notice is we're not getting everything. You know, like if I come in here, you're definitely noticing some of these lines that we're missing. We're going to try it just to see what it does. I'm not going to use the full blue color or anything like that. What we'll do instead is let's do another layer over top, and we'll mess with the opacity a little bit, because I still want that kind of like canvasy color or texture or feel or however that is. Now if we save it, we've got that blue kind of canvasy look. So let's try this. We're going to copy merged. We're going to make a new image. I don't know if this is going to work, but we are going to give it a shot and see what we can come up with. Clipboard size. We're going to get rid of this background here because we don't want a white background. I really could have just said, you know, make it transparent. And we're going to save this copy as a ping because we don't want to catch any of the white background there either. Again, I don't really know if this is going to work. This is my first try with this, but I think a proper attempt is all we really need to do here, and then we'll see what we can come up with. We'll see if it looks good. So by itself, I feel like it still looks okay. But now what we got to do is see what happens when we plaster it on top of this. If it's the right size, in theory, we should be good to go. So it's 45, so in theory 90 should be, since we exported it in high definition, 90 should tuck right in. But it doesn't quite do that, so we're going to have to play with the numbers a smidge. I mean, all things considered, it doesn't look terrible. I'm going to have to see what it looks like when it's exported in high def. And as I mentioned, certainly the first thing that I did was, you know, I didn't do a full-on version of the sail, because we can see that in the Photoshop we're missing those lines and things like that. If we really wanted to go crazy, I would have spent a little bit more time trying to see if I could capture every little bit of this sail and see what we could do there. I might, to some extent, maybe borrow some of the help that I can get from some more professional artists to help me get that into a better smart object. And I don't know, I don't think that you can have multiple layers on a smart object, but it might be enough to help me do what I need to do as far as kind of plugging that in. But for now, what we'll do is we'll leave it as is. We'll see what an export looks like. If it looks terrible, we'll find another way of doing it. But for now, it at least gives us the illusion that everything looks nice. So we'll hit save for now. We'll keep that as is. I can't remember if I saved the... Where is our coral reef? That's locked. Let's grab it one more time and see if our stamp layer has that. No, we're definitely not grabbing the right thing. So we had that at 65. I'll leave that at that for now. We won't actually touch any of that. What we're going to do is we're going to start to work on filling out some of the docks, throwing some stuff around so that it looks a little bit nicer in some places. One of the cool things that we can do is we can move some of these to the front a little bit, because we do know that these sails are going to be a little bit bigger. So like we can move that to this mast instead. Same thing down here. That should be the front mast. And then we can play with the bigger mast later. This one's only got the one. So leave that be for now. That one's going to be another challenging one, because the one that I'll try and play with is going to be... I'll show you because it's cool. So my plan for that one, there's a pirate city that I feel like this one would be cool to have. When it loads anyway. It's one picture. Come on, you can handle it. So that's their sigil. I feel like that would look really cool on a sail. I'll definitely have to talk to my artist about helping me to make a smart object that plays a little nicer, but anyway. So for now, what we're going to do, let's look at some ship stuff and try and start to fill in this area a little bit more. Alright, so we've got the anchors and stuff like that. This is shallow. We've got anchors already on ship. These ships are clearly supposed to be sailing, but the composites don't have the version without the anchors on it. So what we'll do is mess with the size of that a little bit because we want it to appear as though it's underwater. And let's try one of the blend modes and see if we can find one that kind of does what we want it to. Let's try actually, let's see what happens if we go to normal and we just mess with the opacity a little bit. And then in order to, properly get this idea across, what we're going to need to do is grab some ropes too. So we've got bowsprits. What else do we got? We've got pieces of rope that we can use. So that one, we'll keep it opaque. Do we have a knot anywhere? I don't know that this is going to look the right way, but I feel like we can fake it a little bit. And back to the rope here. Make sure we're using the right size. So that one was a 20. Let's go back and do something like this. Move that under, and then we're going to say that this is in the water as well. So we'll leave that a little bit like that. And I mean, I feel like that sells it to some extent. We don't want to go too crazy and spend an obscene amount of time doing things like that. So we'll copy that kind of idea for the other ships, things along that line. So let's see what else we can do. We've got these broken boats that I don't want to use. Let's go to just the head one here. We'll go to boat, and we can use these little guys. Because the ship keelboat composites, they're too big. Broken boats don't do much for us, but the core here, we can kind of play with that kind of stuff. So what we'll do is we'll put this boat here, so it looks like it's hanging off the side. Same thing with this one over here. And Let's see if we can't find some gangplanks. So we've got these in the sewer. I don't really want to use that. Let's see what we have in the pirate set. We've got quote-unquote pirate stairs. We've got tables. We've got cabinets. Let's see if the pirate stairs do what we need them to do. And what we may end up doing, let's, I'll tell you what, let's save this real quick. And what I can do is, let's go and check out somebody else's map for inspiration. So we've got our planning document, Hidden Harbor, and we're actually going to go to this person's docks. This is the one that we looked at before, and we'll see if there's any inspiration that we can glean from this. So one of the things that you'll see is they do have these kind of little pier things here. There's a couple of cranes and things like that. So we'll probably use things like that. We don't actually go onto dry land with this little mini part of the zone. So we're not going to see cobblestones anyway, or buildings like that anyway, but we will see one step up, we'll see the tavern, things like that. It looks like they're using this as the gangplank, so we can use something like that. We may honestly use the ladders a little bit more, and maybe like we'll throw a crane or something on the end of there. So let's do that. Let's find our crane. That is, I believe, in the steampunk, not cane. We're going to want this guy to be kind of big. So he has... It looks like it's just freestanding. I don't think that there's anything too crazy about it. So we're going to center that. If we need to, we'll make it bigger. His crane doesn't actually reach the boat, so we don't have to do anything too crazy about that. Let's actually, with that in mind, let's do a turn. And that way it's not actually hitting the boat. And let's get those ladders in here. We're actually going to play with this until we can kind of center it like that. And let's take... Oops. Let's take... that's the composite for the galleon, so I don't want to grab that. We'll go back in here. We'll see if we have... board down here. So the problem is, oh, you know what it is? We don't need give me 1 second. We don't need that anymore. In fact, we can just delete it because we already know the shape of everything on this map. So now that comes out a little bit nicer. Let's see what happens when we bump that up. And we'll do 2 of these side by side. And we'll move the ladder up as well. So now the ladder ends on that. kind of connects in a little nice. Nothing too crazy or anything like that, but it's something that we can use for sure. Let's go back and look for some other pieces of inspiration from that other one. So yeah, we might tweak some things here and there. He's got some crow's nests and things like that, I think, because he's doing, like I said, we're probably going to play with a version of this where we hide the sails. So it might not be a bad idea to have a crow's nest in there. And his definitely covers the composite, because you can see you don't get that mast anymore, and that's perfectly fine. Let's get the rigging that he has as well. Go back down to the ship. I know I saw it. So for them, they're described as nets. One, two, three, 5 steps. Does that look about right if I'm putting that out there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 maybe? And then we've got this guy, which is much smaller, and this guy, which is much bigger. Let's play with this middle net and see what we can do. Kind of disappears underneath. Let's see. So he's got this guy's so talented. Look, it makes me second guess like everything I'm working on. All right, so we've got that boat. We've got this boat over here. Definitely different composites. Very talented guy. Let's give this guy some credit again. So it's Rich Robinson is the one who worked on this map. Big props to Rich, because he did a phenomenal job. Like, certainly I'm looking at it right now and it's still like mind-boggling. He's got like these cool lines that, you know, like kind of indicate the edge of, you know, this stonework pier and everything. Just a very good job overall. Very, very impressed by what I'm seeing. So his nets, they just kind of terminate a little bit around the corners, and that's fine. Let's see if we can't make our nets look nice too. So we're going to keep on trying to turn it until we get a decent amount without going too far over. That, I feel like, is pretty darn good. That looks like it connects, so we'll keep it there for now. We're going to copy this one and flip it the other way. And because I've gone in that direction, I should be able to, in theory, not have to do too much work to center it. That looks pretty good. And then we'll do this one over here. We are going to hide our sails real quick. So we've got it hidden there. And there is our small bit of rigging. I need to make it a little bit bigger so it connects. So right there feels good to me. Thanks, man. Throw that here. Matt, do you want me to show you what I was doing yesterday so that you can see what the resize tool looked like? Or you want to do that off stream so that you can kind of experience it on your own? We got this group again. Throw that back up to 100. So now we know that we need to take these guys. Ah, drat. Well, I'll tell you what we can do. Instead of doing it that way, let's just get this group and move it up. There we go. Looks a little bit more natural that way. Alright. We know that we're going to have to do that kind of crazy stuff with everything else, but for now, what we'll do is save what we're working on. And I liked what he had. He had like barrels of water and stuff like that. Let's see if we can do something there. There we go. We're even going to... I don't want it to be like under the rigging, so we're going to actually put it over here. And the reason that I don't want it on the rigging is people are climbing up there. Like, we don't want debris falling from anything and tainting the water or anything like that. Not every ship is going to be the same, so let's do... a little too low, so what we'll do is grab this sail and put it over top. Okay. So that kind of hides that water a little bit. We're going to bounce around a lot just because I'm experimenting with this map as we go. So there is a component that I've seen called ship waves. So let's grab those and we'll throw them in here. So I think for the most part, this kind of does what we want it to. In theory, I think this would be like trails behind the ships. See. I'm going to try with the actual waves and we'll see if we can't make them look a little nicer. Right, we've got these sea waves and we've got these... I think the sea waves are probably the way to go. We can make these bigger. And this way it gives the boats a little bit more presence. You can kind of like imagine that they're jostling in the water and stuff like that. Make sure this is actually That's 3, that's 2, so that's fine. I just don't want it to be the same one every single time. Another 2. Throw that there. Right there. And we'll make sure that that shows up underneath the crane. Throw 1 or 2 more up here. And a curvy one up here. Start to fill in some of the spots around these other boats. And then we know that we're going to have to do it the opposite way as well. So we'll change the direction of things. It'll end up looking a lot nicer. One of the things that I'll have to do is remember to do it for these other ones. When I go to the other side of this zone and I'm working on what we've got left of the Paratus ship on the zone, like the map 1 tile over from here. We won't have that problem with this ship, so that's nice. Go back to this one. We're actually going to give this one a little bit of like backsplash back here. Okay, let's actually grab all the ones that are like these from this set. Group them together, lock that down, rename it Boat Waves. So yeah, just that little bit ends up giving it a little bit more character, helps out a lot. Let us go back to our boys and see what he's got. He's got a lot of kind of tools on his boats. We don't have a lot of them over here. We've got some of the basic stuff that comes on the composite, but let's put some barrels on some of those boats. Give it a little bit more oomph. Big water barrel there. Oh, you know what I wanted to do? So I was thinking about this yesterday. When Matt and I went to the Cayman Islands, we did some snorkeling. And they have like a reef there that you can see. And Matt was playing with an eel. So I want to see if I come here and transform this, we can make it look a little bit more eel-like. And so now it's got that kind of slithery gray look. And let's actually mess with the opacity a little bit so that we can see it a little bit better. We'll move it to 75. Do we move it? Yeah, I feel like that's the way to go. We'll keep it above. We'll have it kind of move through. And then while we're looking at that, one more thing to do. So I'm specifically looking to see if I can make it kind of look like a stingray. And I have a feeling we're not going to be able to pull that off because of the way that it's shaped. Although, that doesn't look terrible. It just looks big. Let's see if I can change the color. Because I want this to look a little bit more like brown. So let's see if we can move the saturation up. And something like that. And then maybe a little bit darker. And let's mess with the opacity again. And let's try a couple of these guys swimming around. Because a lot of times stingrays like to float around in pairs, groups, and stuff like that, so. We don't have a manta ray, right? I didn't just make that up. No. Okay. I feel like that feels enough like a manta ray, or like a stingray, where I'm not super bothered by it. I do think that the shadows for these ones need to change a little bit. So I feel like the intensity of that one is wrong. It totally is. You can see that the some of this stuff got played around with, I think. There we go. Mess with that one a little bit too. And just for fun, let's actually mess with the opacity a little bit more. Alright, back to our boy. So one of the things that I didn't do was we didn't do any bird poop. So let's do some bird poop in a few places. So we're going to say that the ships were pretty maintained. We've got blood there, but we've got the blood spatter effect here, and this is what we're going to end up using. So that's a lot of bird poop. So we're going to shrink that down a smidge. Nice and close to this birdie. So we're going to mess with the brightness. Brightness goes up, contrast goes down. And saturation doesn't matter. I guess it's the opacity that has to change. Alright, so we got a splatter there. I don't want the ships themselves to be all messy because I feel like they would make sure that that kind of stuff is taken care of. They got swabbies and stuff like that. So we've got the 3 docks. We'll put a little splatter on each of them. And now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think that we're going to put anything here, but we will have some like scatterings of rocks out on either the left side of this map or the right side to make it look like people need to be aware of what they're navigating. Back to our boy. always studying all the time. So he's actually got something pretty smart here that I wasn't considering. So they've got these kind of things where you can moor to the pier, and I think that is probably something that we could dive into a little bit and grab ourselves, because clearly the tool set is there. The question is, where can I find it? So it's not here. I'm guessing it's not in the pirate set. Let's see. Go back to ship one more time just to make sure that I didn't miss it. Because sometimes I don't pay the most attention. Oh, there we go. So it's part of the ship ropes. So grab that here. We're going to actually make these part of the pier. Pretty much anything to add a little bit of character to your map. Make it look like you put a little bit of extra thought into it. So I liked what he did, where he had some of these down here. So if a ship did need to dock sideways, if they were way too big, this is an opportunity for them to do that as well. And I also saw, we're going to grab other pieces of this kind of stuff, but I saw these guys, and I feel like that is a nice thing to be able to use too. So let's see if there's anything. I don't know what that one's called. I don't know if it's just like a, I don't know if it is a pillar, just like a wooden pillar that he's getting from like the farmstead. Type in pillar and see what we get. Ah, yeah, it's just from the core. It's just a wooden pillar. Size that down to 30 and see what that looks like. Just that little tiny bit adds a lot of feeling to this map. So let's do that. We're going to do some more crates. I'm going to stand up and shake out my old achy knee. Give me 1 second. My knee has been hurting for a little bit, but the knee is especially hurting recently because I played wiffle ball too hard. That is a true story. I am sorry to report. Alright, let's see what we can do here. The more and more I'm seeing it, the less and less I like how tiny some of these stairs are. So we're going to make this ship bigger. Do this, because we know now that the waves are a part of the equation as well. Figure those stairs now are less than 5 feet. That ship's wheel is pretty small. This one over here was 30. Like, this ship just didn't end up shaped the right way when we were playing with it. Let's see, do I like that? I'll have to think about it, because I'm not sure how much I like it. And it will be very hard for them to get back out of there. But for now, I'll leave it like that. I'll mull on that as we go. Let's do another pass at this guy's. Let's see. Fishy, 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 fishy. Lots of fishies. Maybe I should have more fishies. All these fish are definitely food fish. I feel like the koi fish is the only fish that you get. Are those dead fish? I can't tell. Because he doesn't have. I can't tell. It looks like it could be. Maybe it's a watercolor fish. Let's go to Universal and look at fish. You are lying to me. Yeah, I don't think that it's one of these fish. Let's go back to the fantasy battle maps. And we'll take one of these guys. When they're in the water, maybe it won't look so silly. I think there's a turtle. I'm going to mess with the color of this one a little bit. Can't really tell if that's a turtle at that point. Let's do... make that look a little bit more lively. Maybe we can throw a starfish in there or two. Oh my god! Alright, we're at 7:55. This map is definitely not going to be done for tomorrow. I know that as much. But what I'll try and do is pry myself away from Starfield and see if Star is long enough to do a little bit of work for this to either be done on Friday or Saturday. As I said, I think the biggest problem is going to be finding out how to do the sales. It might end up being that I just, when I export this to HD, I'll see if that looks good as it is. I feel like the one that I was thinking for the Black Lantern, that might be a little too tough to pull off. So I might have to figure out like a different like pirate group or something like that. There might even be... Let's see. So the pirate sails, they have... Nah, they're just kind of beat up. Like there's no flag or anything like that. But I'm guessing it's because their flag is... Yeah, on top of the ship. And I would imagine that, like, if I'm running it like that, it's not quite looking the way that I want it to. You could, in theory, do something like that. They got the anchor flag over here. I don't know. I'll have to play around with it a little bit, see what I like. This gentleman doesn't have the sails. I've seen sails before, so I'll have to kind of poke around. One of the things that you'll notice that I need to do is I need to make more of these where it connects to the pier. Otherwise, what's the point of anybody docking here? And I'll just look at other ways to try and zazz it up a little bit. So we'll put more crates, we'll put more barrels, maybe a wheelbarrow, something like that. And then just kind of go from there. But at least for now, we've got a decent setup for our first harbor. It's nothing too crazy, but, you know, it's passable. And once we connect it to the rest of the zone, it'll feel more lively. When you come down here, it'll feel like it's part of one scenario. So, all right, I am going to leave the chat open for a minute or two in case anybody wants to chat, and then I am going to head downstairs and jump into a little bit more of Sea of Stars. I have a feeling that the crypt is still a ways off, but we'll see what I can do. I would love a chalky milk, my peasant. All right. We are going to send this over to... Well, I'll leave it open for another minute or two just to make sure that everything's on the up and up. All right. Let's go to our closing the show screen. I'm a peasant! I said what I said. Alright, so thank you all for watching the stream today. As you can see on the screen right now, we have a bunch of the places that you can find us out on the internet. To find anything out about the Tellest Fantasy Universe, you can go to Tellest.com. For the battle maps that my brother and I create, you can go to Patreon.com/Tellest. To see the streams live, you can see me here on Twitch.tv/ThatTellestGuy. To see all the streams that I've ever done for maps and Talking Tellest, you can check out my YouTube channel at youtube.com/@worldoftellest. For our video game related content, you can go to thatentertains.com or the That's Entertainment YouTube, youtube.com/@that'sentertainmentgames. And to find all of our awesome merchandise, including high quality mouse pads, handcrafted magic wands, battle maps, posters, and more, head to our shop at etsy.com/shop/Tellest. Again, I'm going to talk about Rihanna's stuff a little bit too. You can find her stuff on TikTok at Full House of Fluff and Weird Witch Wands. Eventually I'll throw them on this screen. I just haven't had a lot of free time. And yeah, that'll do it for us for the making maps today. Like I said, I will be taking a minute or two, and then we'll kick up Sea of Stars and see how far we can get in that. Thank you again for watching this stream.